It is Sunday on Raid Shadow Legends, but you knew that. Now, every game has one kind of level or feature that makes the game less fun. You think about playing the game, think it's going to be a good idea, you remember that one part, and you think, is it worth it? And Raid is no exception in that kind. So, what can you do? You can either sit it out if the experience is worth it overall. You can find something else to play, even though it's 2024 and the industry is in the worst state it's ever been. Or, in the case of this game, you just spend money until the game is fun again. Don't actually do that, by the way. So, we're going to go over what I think are the top 5 most hated legendaries in this game that people see on site, as you see on site, and think, it's more of this again, is it? Or the possibility of it being, So, beginning is going to be, number 5 is Ultimate Death Knight. Now, by himself, Ultimate Death Knight is kind of a necessary evil. We have so much stuff in this game that devastates a single target, but you kind of need this guy who just sits there and takes it, and he doesn't do a whole lot else by design because he's meant to be a walking passive. But the issue people have with him is with Stone Skin, because Stone Skin gives you an absolute ton of damage reduction for 2 turns. You can barely even debuff them. You can't even remove it half of the time. And people build him with tons of HP and defense and no speed at all. And when you're just trying to get through your arena matches as fast as possible, there's always people who put him on defense with 2-turn Stone Skin. You one-shot the rest of their team, and then you spend the next 5 hours waiting for him to take 2 turns, or for you to gradually break through Stone Skin like 1 HP at a time, because Stone Skin has 85% damage reduction. So yeah, next is going to be Sun Wukong, who was given to everyone for free. I guess the idea was to level the playing field somewhat, because it's been months now and I think this champion is still partially not okay. Plarium knows it, which is why they keep making a bunch of things that have either permadeath or some other way to get around him. They don't do it that many because they're not that heavy-handed and they're not great at champ design in the first place. But the first issue people have with Sun Wukong is the A2. Now, ignoring how this proceeds to just ignore 100% of defense with Helm Smasher and Lethal and one-shot your entire team, some people just build him as an offensive support and make it so that he has a point-and-click way to turn someone into a sheep. Now, this can't be polymorphed, and what happens is, you can't block either, obviously. That champion loses their turn, they come back with half HP, no turn meter, no buffs, and due to the fact that sheeps have 150 base speed, in the average battle it means they've sat there doing nothing for ages. And now, obviously, Ultimate Death Knight can somewhat mitigate this because he'll absorb this himself, and also means that if he's really tanky and Stone Skin, that Sun Wukong doesn't one-shot your entire team. But that's not all this champion does, sadly, because he also has less. Takes everything off you, puts block buffs on, hits everything. A lot of teams that rely on certain buffs don't have a good time against him. Necro hates him, Helicath doesn't like him, there's a bunch of others that he just completely invalidates, and this buff steal doesn't even unhit, it's an effect first before the attack, so being Blue Affinity won't save you here. Of course, you could just try polymorphing him, but, well, what happens if you don't get polymorphed? What then? And then we have his passive, Unbeatable Wukong. He comes back again, and again, and again. So unless you have block passives, or permadeath, or something, if people can start a match long enough, he's going to come back at a time when you can't just immediately put him back down, and then he either cripples your entire team, or he kills them. And it ends up being not particularly great to deal with. Also, he is this because Swiss Army Knife champion to an extent. Anyway, next we're going to go over to a champion who is disliked not for PvP reasons, and that is Trunda. Well, that's not entirely correct, because at first she was disliked for that because she was by far the hardest hitting champion in the game at the time. Because this skill was tested under what if we put them with accuracy, so this is just AoE stun on a 5-turn cooldown, a 7% chance. Except people then built who have no accuracy at all, had this extra hit, and proceed to one-shot entire teams. Or do it with this as well, because 60% of the damage is not actually 60%. You know this as well as I do. She also had abnormally high stats for some reason, especially in HP. If you want one way to put this into perspective, okay, Legendary Attack Champion, right? 20,800, 22,800 even. Throlny, HP Mythical. Oh, what's this? That's strange now, isn't it? So going back to Trunda, she's disliked nowadays because, again, this skill is calculated by someone who completely failed math class and will turn 5 million, 10 million, however much it is on a decapitated Hydra head into vast, untold devastation that hits so hard that it probably kills everyone else's Hydras in the clan as well. So give her a few friends and she makes part of a Hydra team that is... I can't even think of an accurate number to describe it, but let's just say that the Trunda comp is far above anything else. It's probably far better than what your entire clan does, unless you have someone else in your clan who has this. And Plarium have said that they've worked out that something is definitely fucking wrong, and they're going to think of something. Now, I have no information on what they're thinking of, and therefore I won't spend 15 minutes harping on about a topic I know nothing about, unlike some. Moving on, and back to another champion that Plarium really has not much of an idea what they're doing with, and that is Rotos the Lost Room. This guy has been nerfed multiple times over the game's lifespan, whether directly or indirectly, because for some reason at first this was 75% defense shred that also had permadeath regardless, and a lot of people say that this champion was broken, some say that it wasn't broken because they beat it once. If you're dealing with people like that, then just talk to someone else. They're not worth conversing with whatsoever. You'll never be able to convince them. But even now, he is still the 1v4 god, especially with Ward of the Fallen. Because how that works with his passive is, it will cut damage down to 50% first, and then take 30% off that. So maximum he can take from a single hit while under 6-star ward is 35% of his max HP. Which means that he can't die to a double hit, and a triple hit just barely kills him, and often not even that if he's under shield or he's gotten some HP off this. And then, in true Rotos style, extra turn! Extra turn! Extra turn! Cycle of Violence or Merciless! Extra turn! Your entire team dies. Bad luck. Try again next game. So, yeah. He's a pretty funny champion like that. I should know. I've been using him for ages in live arena. If I didn't have him, I'd probably be stuck. And then no one is surprised to see who's going to be number one most hated champion in this game. Now, to say that Armanz is the most broken champion in a raid is not entirely correct. He's the most broken champion in any single gacha I have ever heard of, who has been deliberately allowed to be this way for anything more than a brief period, where developers have realised that, oh, hang on, guys, we've kind of messed up here. First off, this is... stuns you, takes your entire turn meter off you, takes it for himself, takes another turn. So this is a 2-turn stun on a 2-turn cooldown. He does this once, those champions can wave goodbye to ever taking a turn ever again in the entire match. He's not going to sugarcoat it, not at all. And then we have this. Now, remember before how I showed you Sun Wukong's A2 and how this is partially checked by Ultimate Death Knight or by Blue Friendly Champions? Well, we power corrupt that because now it's just a point and click effect. Any one champion this guy doesn't like, they're gone. Not gone, but they're a sheep, and it's basically a point and click delete. He can use it anytime and can't polymorph, not by itself. This can, sure, this can, but again, if you're going to go into an arena match just hoping he gets polymorphed, what happens if he doesn't? What then? You just lose? And I'm not going to go into a long debate about how this game has been very blatantly balanced around polymorph, but he's one of those champions who would never see the light of day if not for a dead parrot defense that actually there's a 20% chance that his skills will get cancelled. So yeah, he's got an immensely sky high pick rate, first pick rate, ban rate and whatnot in live arena, anywhere else in the game. And it's gotten to a point where even the absolute rank 1 in live arena doesn't want to deal with him, even though he's got all of the things that are supposed to be used to beat our mans. He still doesn't take his chances. I'm not making this up. Seriously. So, yeah. I still think that they shouldn't nerf this champion. Just ban him from arena entirely. He is never ever going to be anywhere near correct there, and all that's going to happen is they'll eventually one-up him at some point, and if you thought this would be worse, then our player will make it worse. Yet here we still all are because the alternatives is really not too much better. So, yeah. Also, he's better than you. He's dating the Arbiter. He's better than you. Deal with it. See ya.